All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Raw and Relentless. I got Carly on with me today. Carly, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Why don't you give the audience a quick intro of who Carly is, what Carly does, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I love working with business owners, founders, entrepreneurs. What I mainly focus on is they'll come to me to help them execute their vision. So they want to bring life into their vision. They want to see it come into fruition, but they also don't want to sacrifice, cash flow, bottom line, and themselves. So that's a huge dynamic of what I'm doing is we're not just focusing on business strategy, but we're also focusing on the person holistically. So we get to do a lot of inner work and a lot of outer work. And the cool thing is we get to spiral that all the way within the company too. So usually individuals who I get to connect with are, into growth, into personal development and want to not only transform and help themselves, but help their teams and their employees too, which is, I don't know, I just think they're inspiring people to work with. They have a
For
vision, they
sure.
have an impact, and they want to help people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What even got you into this business?
Yeah, I have been an entrepreneur a good portion of my life. A good portion of my life. I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. I've worked in corporate offices for a short period of time and some small businesses as well for a period of time. And that's also been quite inspiring. But I think at a certain point, I got to realize like, I was doing the coaching dynamic within these smaller companies and I was helping them build while I was working there, and um, it just wasn't. It's funny. There's just not enough for you to do too.
Yeah.
For one, I was like, why am I not building my own company? And I could also work with more individuals if I'm doing this on a consultant basis, and it was an inspiring switch for me to make. Everyone wants their freedom of time in a sense, and
Hmm.
having their own schedule and things like that. Even though I've found that being an entrepreneur, I have less time, but I love what I'm doing to a greater degree.
This is
So
very true. Yeah, you have less
it
time as
was
an entrepreneur.
yeah, it was a perfect trade-off. I may be working more, but I actually love what I'm doing more, so it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like I'm working more. And
Yeah.
that's really the switch that I also wanted to make is I just wanted to wake up every day and be like, I love what I'm doing and I want to do more of it and get to connect with different people and it was a really
Hmm.
good opportunity to kind of take what I was already doing and transfer it into this more concrete visceral form.
For sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, I recently just interviewed somebody else on the podcast that kind of does something similar to you, coaching in a way, but you know his motto or mentality is that if you structure the business right, you should have as much free time or freedom, if you will, as possible. I told him, I said that's very hard for me to wrap my head around because I feel like every entrepreneur I know is ditches the 9 to 5 to work 24/7. So it's
Yeah.
hard to get away from your work or from your business rather, and make sure that everything is running smoothly.
It definitely like this is the cool thing. Like he's right in the sense that it depends on what you're doing, what your goals are, right? So like and I've done this before where I'm like, "Oh, like I could use just a little bit of a break." And so I have things structured enough to a degree where I can sort of take a break and like step back on things and everything can run normally in my business. That was really cool. It was like when I first tried that, I was like, that's amazing. Like my business is still running, it's still functioning, but technically I feel like I'm doing less, which I was, because I
Hmm.
just want to take a break and focus on some other stuff. But what's really interesting as well is like I don't have like I have a vision. I have my own personal mission and so that's going to be ever evolving and never ending. And so yes, I may have a certain amount structured, but I'm also moving into new arenas and new goals and those are things that there's learning to be done, there's personal education, there's expansion. Am I hiring someone? Am I hiring someone for a team? Am I hiring someone to teach me? Am I hiring coaches? Like I don't really know what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden, all that extra time that I have from building that strategic stuff is filled in with these next steps of the vision. And so it's not really a good thing or a bad thing. It's really important. And this is what I love to focus on with individuals. Like, it's really important to be doing things that you love, things that are so inspiring and fulfilling to you that when you tack on all these things, then basically you're saying, yeah, I am adding all this stuff to my box, but I'm actually really enjoying myself. And it's cool. I had like an opportunity to do a roundtable with some pretty cool people recently. And when we were asked the question about work life balance, we all had the same answer. And we're like,
Yeah.
work is life and life
Yeah.
is work, but I'm not mad at that. Like, it's actually
Mm-hmm.
part of what I love about my life. And when
Mm-hmm.
you really love what you do, and I had the opportunity to speak with a bunch of people who were, like,
Mm-hmm.
then work is life and life is work. And you don't have to separate it because you're actually enjoying it so much. And it literally is so meaningful and purposeful to you that every day you're like, yeah, I could cut this down and I could cut down my day, but it's like, well, then what would I do? And some days, and this is a fun story, by the way. I worked with an individual and he tried to retire,
Mm-hmm.
and he basically wound up in the company, got a significant quantity of money stolen, right? So it was in like the nine figures. So it was a lot. And so he came to me because it was obviously a really stressful situation and he had gotten back into working. And when we uncovered what was truly going on, we got to discover that when he stopped working, he started gaining weight, he started like eating more food, he started drinking more, smoking more, and he actually was really bored. And when he got back into the company, it reconnected him to his true vision, which was helping the individuals within this country, which is like a more third world country, have a first world lifestyle. And his
Mm-hmm.
company was something that could provide that. So their kids would have the education, be able to grow up in a different way and a different opportunities, be able to go to college in a different way because he was providing that opportunity through the business. And funny enough, like I talked to him a couple years later and he's like, it's still stuck with me. And our next thing that we're going to work on is making sure, because he actually wants to exit out of this company. But the next step is he's like, I don't want to retire this time. I don't want to slow
Mm-hmm.
down. I don't want to stop because he's like, I made that mistake before. So when we work together next time, I'd really like to uncover what like the next step of the vision is. And that's when you know you're inspired, you're fulfilled. Sometimes we think we don't want to work that hard, and then you have the opportunity to not work, and you're like, I have no meaning in my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh,
I could totally relate to that because I'm part of a roundtable like yourself, and we recently had that same exact conversation between work life balance and, if you sold your business tomorrow, like what would you do?
yeah.
And a lot of people were like, well, we'd still keep working, because we love to work, and it does, it gives you meaning. Um, I know I feel like there's a ton of like quote unquote coaches, business coaches, personal growth coaches, all of that out there nowadays, especially with social media. What do you think sets yourself apart from some of the other coaches that are out there?
Yeah, so a big component is the human behavior dynamic, right? So it's interesting because we'll like get into working on business and strategy, and I love it. It's great. And this is where if you don't resonate with vision, connection, purpose, you're not going to resonate with me. It is what it is. It's not a good thing or a
Hmm.
bad thing. There's someone for
Hmm.
everyone.
Sure.
But like, you can go through your life and you can build a business, and it could just be a business, it could just be finances. That's fine. You're welcome to
Hmm.
do that. But like, what I know is the core essence of who you are, of where you've come from, your unique set of challenges, the way that you've grown up in such a unique way, like how you think, how you view the world, your core values, your purpose, makes you someone who sees life in a completely different way. And that got infused into not just your business, but why you created it. And so, what I'll do when I'm working with individuals, we start by actually connecting with the true vision. And I want to feel your heart open when we catch that vision. And when I say I want to feel your heart open and you get gratitude, I want tears of inspiration. I want you to be
Mm.
so connected that you feel uncomfortable in front of me because you just want to cry. Like, because you feel your heart open so much. And it's like, that's your vision. Great. Now let's structure the business strategy around what you already have, obviously, because there's a huge quantity that's created. But let's infuse this within the company. Let's infuse this into every day, because that's the difference between being on a mission and just having a business, right?
Hmm.
Because if we look at the people that we really admire the most in the world, like, we don't admire people who are just showing up making money for the sake of money. We admire people who are on a mission. We admire people who have meaning behind what they're doing. So why
Hmm.
not give yourself permission to like find that meaning and infuse it into the company and the life? And then I use business strategies and stuff, and like all the different tools and opportunities, and even organization, and making sure that everything's like organized on the back end so you can continue to focus on that and actually scale your company sustainably. Like, we focus on the people, we focus on strategy, execution, and cash flow as well. But the most important thing is to make sure we're connected to that vision. So that's the first thing that I definitely start with.
I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs lose sight of that vision because they in the beginning, especially, have to wear so many hats and they have to do so many things that they get so wrapped up in the day to day and just trying to make sure they make payroll and, all that other stuff, that they feel lost in how to achieve the scalability, the growth, the cash flow. So how do you help entrepreneurs work through that and work around that?
Well, I think what the interesting thing is we think that it's separate when in actuality the two things are combined. So we have the mechanistic components of a business, which is kind of what you're discussing, but then there's the vitalistic components as well. And the vitalistic is the part that's connected to your soul. And it's really important to stay focused and connected with that because if you lose it, like you wind up losing the opportunity to help people to grow and be on board with you to grow, right? Because here's the dynamic. Like when you're starting out, like part of what you want in your company, your business is you want people to be on board for your products and services, right?
Mm-hmm.
So really important for you to make sure that you're going out there and you're providing something that provides value, like massive value. But let's say you're in the market and it's a saturated market, right? So if you have a
Mm-hmm.
saturated market, which coaching is a saturated market, what are you going to do that stands you apart? And we're seeing more and more in the world today that people are using themselves as part of the tool that stands them apart, right? We're seeing more business owners hop on podcasts. We're hearing from a lot of smaller companies, mid-sized companies, even large companies, corporations and stuff where we never heard CEOs and founders come on podcasts before. Now we're seeing it everywhere. And so
Mm-hmm.
they're becoming more infused in that. And all of a sudden, you're connected to a mission. Now, when you're connected to a mission, and I want people to think about this, right? Like when you're connected to, I have to get this task done, I need to, I should, I'm supposed to, what do you wake up? You wake up kind of exhausted, you wake up drained, and you wake up feeling like, I don't want to do this, but I have to. But when
Mm-hmm.
you're connected to something where it's like, okay, well, I'm doing this because this is taking me here. And it's like, yeah, that's the mission. You're like, all right, it's going to be a rough day, but I'll get it done. And that's a different personal attitude. And people try to impose basically like these false almost affirmations on themselves. And when you say an affirmation and you try to fake that, you can't fake that. And I know that you figured that out because you're like, I keep saying the affirmation and I'm not feeling it. You're not
Mm-hmm.
feeling it because you lost that connection to the vital part of the company. When you have that connection to the vital part of the company, that's a natural state that you're in. So when I'm working with individuals, it's to help them get back to the natural state that already exists inside them. Because if I'm on a call with you for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, like after that, how are you going to function if you don't have a cheerleader? I'm not your cheerleader. I want to take you back to that natural state that exists inside yourself so that in between this time and the next time that I talk to you, that doesn't go away. You don't need an affirmation. You don't need to do anything. I'm just pulling out what's already inside you. And so that's why I
Mm-hmm.
say it's like really important to stay connected to it. In front of me, I have three whiteboards, very large, and it has the whole like my vision on it. So I sit at my desk and I look at like what I'm doing for people and what I'm doing for myself, right? Like in front of me, I have in all caps, we bring life to your vision, right? So if every day I'm working and I'm doing something that's not as exciting, but I'm looking up at that board and I'm like, we bring life to your vision. And it's like, yeah. This right now, this boring task is going to help me get people that very outcome and that goal. And that lights me up. That fuels me. So connect with the thing that you're most inspired by. And again, like I just surround myself with it. Even the desktop, on my desktop, I have like a very specific, background, and then it has all the quotes that like fuel the soul, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
wake up and every morning on my phone, when I see the alarm, I have a background that fuels the soul. Like everything around me, it's like, where can I have it? In our kitchen, we have our mission and our purpose statements, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the bathroom and downstairs, I have core values written. And it's like every day I wake up and it's like, no matter what happens to me, everything is on the way. Everything can be used as like basically fuel for the fire to help me on my mission. Everything is perfect for me and my unique mission. I have these things spread around the house to remind me of what I'm doing and where I'm going. Because
Mm-hmm.
you're right, things can get really hard. Life is life. So when you connect with that thing, instead of just being like, oh, I had a momentary connection and I'm going to forget it, how can you infuse it into your day to day life to be able to just have that natural state and continue to connect with it on a regular basis?
So do you think kind of what I'm hearing you saying is it's almost like staying in a positive mindset? Do you think that the positive mindset is what, keeps you, I guess, manifesting, if you will, or however, whatever word you want to use, but
Yeah.
keeping you in that state to be able to, you know, be your true self for the business and growing and scaling the business? Do you think it's all about positivity?
Nope. I'll do a differentiation on this one. This is a great thing to bring up too. So it's less about positivity, but more about inspiration,
Mm,
right? Because if I think of something that's inspiring to me and you think of something that's inspiring to you, the thing that's inspiring to you isn't a positive path. That path to get to that thing that's very inspiring to you to achieve has a significant quantity of challenge as well. And so it's not actually about being positive. Realistically, if I'm having you be only positive, I'm not helping you to focus on the challenges on the way and all the things that could occur. There's no preparation there. And so it's funny because people label negativity as like a bad thing, right? But if I'm not negative sometimes, where it's like, well, this could happen and that could happen, that's also our foresight and our intuition coming forward and noticing the problems that we're going to face along the way to get to our ultimate goal. And that's feedback that we listen to. Negativity, like, it's fun. I call them negativity sessions sometimes where I'm like, you're overly positive, you're going to crash and burn, you're going to be surprised with all the crazy crap that's going to happen because you're not paying attention to your reality. I was like, we're going to have a fun negativity party right now. We're going to dive in and then we're going to put some strategies in place to make sure that you're prepared for what's happening next. And when we
mm,
do that and we actually think about it and we spend time on it, people are like, I cannot believe like how blind I was to the next steps for this. And they're like, okay, now I know what to do. Now I know where to go. But they're still doing it because it's
mm,
inspiring. And
mm,
inspiration fuels the part of you that's naturally resilient,
mm,
naturally relentless. People are constantly seeking to get something on the outside to find these parts of themselves when in reality they're all inside you. And if you connect to inspiration, you naturally won't want to give up on that thing no matter how hard it gets. You become relentless beyond relentless and it becomes, can I do this, to how am I going to do this? It's really hard. I feel exhausted. I've got imposter syndrome like beyond I think I've ever had it before. I like wake up doubting myself every day, but I can do this. I can figure it out. That's the relentless part that I know you can connect to
mm,
when you're inspired. So I don't expect you to be positive. I don't expect you not to wake up and have hard days, but what I would love for people to do is connect to the part of them that naturally brings forward relentless, resilient you that can move forward no matter what occurs and figures out how to strategize. And you'll only do that if something's really inspiring to you. And an exercise I love to do with people, because even when I'm talking on a podcast, you can think about something right now. I know you can, that you've done in the past in your life that you were relentless in, you were resilient, and you got to the other side, right? Everyone can think of that. And that to me is an area of life that is so fulfilling to you and so inspiring to you that you did whatever it took to get there. All I'm asking you to do is continue to refine that, bring that into your business, and
mm,
then you can have that applied to your business on a daily basis. So when you have those tough times, you don't have to get burned out. You don't have
mm,
to, right? It's
mm,
like you can move
mm.
through it because that's something that's already in you. We're just going to take it from wherever it was before. We're going to make sure we transform it into the business so that it's applied on a daily basis into another area of life that's really important to you.
It's that's kind of like, in my belief, at least, when they always talk about the one percenters, right? The 1% that, are the multimillionaires, the billionaires. I think that the one trait that all of them have is they're relentless, right? I mean, these are the guys or women that, were sleeping on the office floor, were working countless hours, 36, 48 hours straight. They were the ones that were almost broke a few times over, almost bankrupt, but they just kept going, right? Um, I think that attitude and that mentality is what gets people to the 1%, because most people give up too soon.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you feel about that, but
They do. They do. They give up because you might not have even focused on anything that's important enough to you.
mhm.
It's funny you say stuff like that. I'm going through multiple things. Like I've done that like multiple times. Like yeah, it's like hysterical at varying degrees,
Right.
which is fascinating. It's nice to grow. The last one wasn't as bad as like the first one, but it's oh no. Oh wait, sorry, something just popped up. So it's really interesting because it's like we become that person who's relentless when it's inspiring to us. I have given up on a ton of stuff, like so many things that I wasn't willing to overcome. I wasn't willing to find like strategies and solutions to get to the other side. But when I see that I'm relentless in something and that
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to figure out how to get it no matter what, I literally say to myself, like, what is that? What do I love so much about this? And how can I incorporate not only more of this into my life, but sometimes I'm like, can I make a business out of it? You
Yeah.
know, and that's something really important to focus on because if you're giving up on something, it may not be as important to you as you think. And sometimes we judge ourselves for that too, right? Because we expect ourselves to have the same importance on this that someone else has. I see this a lot, and like I see this so much with like parents, right? Where there's one parent that focuses more on the kid and one parent that focuses elsewhere, right? Usually on business. And then the parent who focuses on business feels guilt and shame because they think they need to be spending more time with the kid, right? But the reality is like that's actually not your purpose. And so you spending the time with the kid is kind of a pain in the butt for the kid because you don't have the same values, core values as your partner who literally like I look at some of these people, whether it be man or woman, I was like, it is your destiny. Like one woman I'm working with, I was like, you are a super parent. Like I call her the CEO of the house, right? She's the
Mm-hmm.
CEO of the house. Like she's a boss. 100% she's a boss. She is just as big of a boss as any CEO I work with, and she's technically a stay-at-home mom. But that is because this woman is in her freaking destiny. And she is
Mm-hmm.
raising a child and doing it the way that is literally her destiny. And that makes her a boss. And the things that she is doing at home in the parenting dynamic and in the household and family dynamic are quite phenomenal, you know? And I don't see it from everyone. Why? Because this is her destiny. This is what she's meant to be doing. So if everyone expects to be like her, you're going to beat yourself up, right? And the reality is that you're going to focus on and spend and invest the most time on what's important to you. And so she's relentless in parenting, but she has no interest in business,
Mm-hmm.
none. When she tried to start a business, it was really hard for her and she kept procrastinating, and it was like, well, let's see why. And we discovered it's like, hey supermom, like you're not there yet. Like, and then
Yeah.
it was like, how do we create supermom and bring her into a business so that you actually feel that same level of relentlessness? So we did some of that too, so she could start to grow her own little business too, which is fun. But we were bringing supermom into that dynamic so she could see how both of them could combine. But again, if you're just trying to do something that you think you should do, you're supposed to do, you have to do, you're not going to do it. You only invest the time in things that you love. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you want to be the 1%, they're just investing time and energy in things that are important to them. It's actually so simple. And then they just keep going. Like they have a problem and they're like, "Well, I don't want to give up." And someone might even tell you like this isn't going to work, and you get angry and you get frustrated and you get annoyed with them because you know part of them is right. It hasn't worked for everyone, but you're like then you think about it and you're like it worked for these select few. And if they can do it, I sure as hell I'm going to try, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the thing that is important to you. That's the inspiration. That's the
Mm-hmm.
fuel. So if I
Mm-hmm.
could just like get people to connect with that to a greater and greater degree, I know that they'll realize they're no different than the 1%. The seer, the seeing, and the seeing are the same. So anything you see on the outside, you have on the inside. And if you're looking up to all these people and thinking they have something that you don't, they don't. Like you have that inside you. It's just paying attention to how it's coming out in your form. And then you become the business. It's like if we're in a business and we see this is our best product, right? What do? We're like, okay, well, how do I expand on this product? How do I build around this product? We sometimes build the entire business around one product because it's
Mm-hmm.
that good,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if that's the one product inside yourself, how can
Mm-hmm.
you uncover and discover what exists inside you and then the business is your life. You build your life around it. So it
Mm-hmm.
becomes that powerful tool, becomes that thing that helps you realize like you are the 1%. You're no different.
That's very interesting because it's a very, very similar message, but structured a little bit differently than the last person I interviewed on the podcast that kind of does this type of coaching. He called it thriving, and it's about getting people into their, creative center. Because when you're in your creative center, that's what's going to kind of, like you said, it's like your destiny. That's where you should be headed in life because so many people try and force it so hard that they're going against their natural state, their natural flow, which then inhibits them from being able to grow both personally and professionally with their business because they're constantly not in their, I guess if you would call it flow state, right? Is that kind of what you're saying as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's becoming more and more evident as we realize, like, when we're pushing ourselves in these directions that we innately really dislike, like the actual challenge that it has on the like our physiology, our symptoms, right? Where I was really, it's interesting, multiple times with multiple clients and even myself, when I've gotten off track and I've done things that I'm not inspired by, fulfilled by, adrenal fatigue hits hard.
Mm.
Like, it's amazing. And I've had it happen with multiple clients as well. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, how do I get back on track? Where did I get off? Like, how did I not connect to that inspiration? And then as soon as you kind of get back on track, you start to feel yourself get energized again. You start to feel your body heal. It's really amazing because remember, it's like when you're stressed out and you feel your physiology, you feel it actually heat up. Like, you'll feel
Mm-hmm.
your body heat
Mm-hmm.
up. And I see it when I'm on consults too. Like, when we start
Yep.
and we talk about something someone's frustrated with, sometimes their face is turning red. You see kind of the blood rush. You see
Mm-hmm.
their physiology, their breathing actually shortens. Like, all these different things occur.
Or they're
And then on
balding, or a lot of gray hair starts growing.
everything. Yeah. When aging starts to move faster, we're like,
Yeah.
what's happening?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And then
true because like
it's
I
true.
looked at a picture 10 years ago when I first bought my business and I was like, Jesus Christ, have I aged?
Yeah. It's amazing. I look at that in presidencies. If you look at presidents and
Yeah.
stuff, 4 years before their term when they start versus after, and you realize the
Mhm.
level of stress that they're dealing with on the back
I
end.
think
Like, it's a
I think
lot.
Trump is the only one that hasn't aged because he thrives in chaos.
He's a businessman. The guy,
Yeah.
he's also on a mission and
Yeah.
he loves this country, man. Like,
Yeah.
the guy genuinely loves this country. So, no matter, I know people have all different varying views and
Hmm.
their support and challenge because that's
Hmm.
what it, when you're a leader, that's what you're going to get. You
Yep.
actually have what Donald Trump has, whether you like it or not. You have people who hate you and people you love or who
Yeah.
love you. It's just there's more people who are vocal about it with him. But
Yeah.
what's really interesting is what we can acknowledge about him, no matter what you feel, is that the guy, he actually loves what he does. Like,
Yeah.
he's genuinely in a state where he loves what he does. He's inspired by what he's doing. And that makes him part of that 1% that definitely, like, you see it. It's a different, like you said, it's a different dynamic. You don't see the aging to the same degree because he's fueled by inspiration. And because
Hmm.
when you're fueled by inspiration, you have eustress instead of distress. And
Mm.
so other individuals who perhaps weren't as fueled by the inspiration of being in that position, we see how the distress actually causes the aging process to accelerate. But
Mm.
eustress is that inspiring stress that I was talking about that actually helps with your internal system, right? It actually helps you to become more resilient. My
Hmm.
aura ring consistently tells me, they're like, you're very stressed, but you're very resilient, right? And it's like, because it's just eustress. I was like, it's totally eustress. I was like, thanks, Aura, for the feedback. So technically, like, I look like I have a lot of stress, but it finds me to be a very resilient person because of all
Hmm.
of my health measures, right?
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
really interesting. So what's the difference? I don't have distress, I have eustress. I'm still facing problems, challenges, things that are hard, right? And things that, like I said, sometimes I have really hard days, right? But
Yep.
simultaneously, it's around things that are inspiring to me. So it becomes a eustress. It becomes a health almost version as opposed to the part that's distress, which accelerates the aging process. So again, that's, I think, why more and more people are talking about it, because as we start to engage as a culture in this acceleration of knowledge and understanding of ourselves, of others, of so many different things, we're starting more and more to learn about, like, how this all connects to who we really are, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
That
I
makes
love that.
complete sense. Yeah, because I mean, everyone always loves a good what's the word I'm looking for? Not hero story, but like,
Yeah.
the people that overcome all those challenges and become successful, people are way more inspired by the entrepreneur, the athlete that, overcame all these challenges and still got ahead. People don't like, the trust fund babies that get it handed them. They like the people that actually, take the licks, put the reps in, and become successful in the end. But man, is that hard?
Yeah, Yeah. Well, and this is the cool thing too, right? Because this is where we have our misperceptions about, again, this is the 1%. We talk about the 1%. What fuels you, right? You
Hmm.
know how many trust fund babies that I've had the opportunity to work with and connect with that just don't keep the money, right? They actually lose the money and they wind up going broke. And the
Mm,
reason why is because they don't have the same values as their parents. They don't
mm,
have the same fuel and inspiration to build. So they're still facing hard things and hard challenges, but
hmm.
they, when they're trying to manage their money, wind up losing it because they just don't have a value on it. They don't have a value on it. They don't have a value on business and they don't know what to do. And so they lose it. And so it's funny. Sometimes people are like, well, it's harder when you don't have like the trust fund, but it's also significantly hard as well when you do have the trust fund because then you're trying to figure out what to do next. And a mistake at that level, you talk about going broke. Like if you go broke and you're a thousandaire, it's not a big deal. But if you have millions of dollars and you go broke because you're a trust fund baby, like that also really freaking hurts. And at that point, like the challenge that you face is a different level. Like let's say, you go broke and you just started your business, right? But you only have two employees. Great, two employees lost their job. But you're the trust fund baby, and all of a sudden you lose everything. But you built a business and it's like there's 50 employees. Oh shit. That's really intense, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so everyone has to face their own challenges, but again, the people who will get to the other side, that
Hmm.
1% that technically is the whole entire world, is the
Hmm.
people who are connected to the things that are most inspiring to them, right? So it's funny when people ask me how to make money, it's like, well, what do you love to do? What do you love to do? Because let's just figure out what's most important to you, because I know that no matter what, you're going to focus on that every day. You go study investments and do all that fun stuff, and like, I love the S&P 500. I just love it. It is what it is. So you do all that stuff and like study all the little bits and pieces, and but it's like, what do you actually love so much that I know every day you're going to wake up and you're going to focus on it? And I
Hmm.
have some clients who love day trading, where every day they're waking up and not only are they active in the day trading, but they're active in studying and researching and doing all of it, and they do quite well. Clients who don't do that and they wake up every day and they're not studying that, and they're studying and researching and involved in something else, potentially sports, right? They wind up failing in day trading and losing a lot of money. It
Mm.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what their background was or what they got given or not given. If they're not inspired by it, they're not going to do it. And that's the core essence of like what it really comes down to. It's like if you're not inspired by it, you're not going to do it. Period. We
Yeah.
even see it with kids, where if kids are inspired by school, they don't do it. They're just not going to do it. So unless you can get a kid inspired by what they're going to do, they're probably going to get a really bad grade in that class. And
Hmm.
oftentimes, I can't tell you how many times people have been like diagnosed with like learning disorders and they don't have learning disorders.
Yes. Oh my
Like,
God. I'm so glad you said that.
honestly, I had one client who they told me had a learning disability, and when we went back, like it turns out he was already in entrepreneurship as a kid. And I was like, so let me get this straight. Like you were bored in class and they weren't providing what you needed, but you were like an entrepreneur and you were like 9 years old. And I was
Yeah.
like, but they told you had a learning disability because you were doing bad at school, but your dad had left and you were already providing finances and stuff for your mom, like by 10, right? By 10, you were already
Wow.
contributing financially. And today you're worth how much? And it's like, but you have a learning disability because the school said so? No. What happened was is that kid had a higher value
Yep.
on the family taking care of the mom and
Yep.
building a business than they had on what was being provided at school. If
Yep.
school could have provided the opportunity for that child to be able to understand, like, if you learn all this stuff, it'll help you make more money for your mom and your businesses, that kid would have spent just as much time at school.
Mm.
So the information isn't
Reframe.
translated. Yeah, reframed, right? And so it's like, even with your kids, and this is fun because, like, I love kids are awesome. They're fun. They're super easy to work with, by the way, because they don't have as much baggage. So, like,
Yeah.
just they go through. One of the
Yeah.
kids I work with, he's 9 now, and it takes him 30 minutes to get through like major stuff because it's like no baggage.
That's cool.
We have decades of baggage, so it is what it is.
Yeah.
But it's fun because if you ask them the questions, which I do with this kid too, it's like, how does basically going through this and this class and this course help you with all these other things that you love? And when they
Hmm.
start to see the links, I'm like, well, how do you feel about learning like this now? And they're like, I feel good about it. I feel good. Anything else that makes you feel like you wouldn't want to just go and do it right now? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, cool. All we have to do is make the link. pay attention to what your child loves, pay attention to what they're invested in, and make the links to what you would love them to invest in a schooling program. And then all of a sudden, the learning disability is gone. They're actively engaged because you just helped them linked
Yeah.
school and education to the most important thing in their little body and their little soul,
Yeah.
right? And that's really cool. That's really, really cool. And so that is the dynamic. Again, it's like focusing on what the core essence of who you are is. We see procrastination at all stages of life, but if you want
Mm,
to find things that you're not going to procrastinate on, it's like then you're going to actually have to engage with that part of you that has that core essence, core values of the things that inspire you the most.
totally. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I always see the people that don't procrastinate on something as something that they're actually passionate about, you know?
Yeah.
Most kids are not passionate about school, you
No.
know? So, but yeah, I totally agree. The whole learning disability thing is just overprescribed nowadays, especially when in a time where every kid is in front of a screen or every kid is constantly playing video games and now like they don't even use books in schools. It's all computer based, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's interesting. So how long have you actually been doing this type of personal development?
So I've been doing it for myself in entrepreneurship for 15 years now. Yep.
Okay.
Hmm.
Did you happen to learn NLP at all? Neuro linguistic programming?
I didn't traditionally learn it, but one of my friends, we have like, we call it a little mastermind. We have like a mini mastermind together. We go back and forth on like everything personal development. She has taken NLP in the past year, and she's like, a lot of the stuff that we have known, she's like, I'm pretty sure a lot of it has also rooted in NLP, which is
Yes.
interesting. So I think I have a background on it to agree that I actually don't fully understand. So it's something that I'm interested in diving into just because I think it's just going to be helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's one of my goals too, to because I want to take the there's a master trainer course every year in Phoenix, I think, and it's 2 weeks long. But you walk out as a certified master trainer in NLP. But you know, my thought process behind it is learning it so that I can use it to be a better leader for all of my employees, to maybe like what you said at the beginning of the podcast, inspire them to bring out the best in them, you know?
Yeah. And it's cool because it's like when we think about bringing out the best in other people too, we talk about the personal development side, but also on the strategic side, it's when we understand our own vision, it's also translating that into the company, right? Like, and we ask ourselves the question, like, once you get the vision out, because I'm not usually ever working with like brand new business owners. So the company is already established. It's like, okay, well, how is this playing out in the company? Like, let's look at how the company is actually reflecting this personally to you, and let's put it in a form that the public can connect with and
Mm-hmm.
employees can connect with, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we can have the
Mm-hmm.
masses connect with it because yours is going to be a very personal statement to you. And so when we look at this and we actually dive into that, you can take that core values statement, that purpose statement. You could also find core values within the company and start to infuse them within the culture. And
Mm.
what that gives people the opportunity to do, it gives them an opportunity to connect with something inspiring as well. And it's cool because I mean, I love doing this with companies. It not only helps the culture as it is today, but it's also something that is integrated into the hiring process. Like, I don't want anyone to hire
Mm-hmm.
outside of the core values and the purpose of the company. If someone looks at that and says that, like, no, like they don't understand it, or like that's, they could do it, but it's like they're not so thrilled about that. Like, if you have one that's like, we're family and we work as a team, but you have someone that says, I'm pretty introverted and I just like to sort of be by myself, right? Like, I don't like to ever work with anyone. I just want my own office. I don't want anyone to talk to me. Like, it's probably not the best person to put in your company.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
going to be a fit for the culture. And
Yeah.
so it's interesting because that's part of what makes these things inspiring and letting them share about it. Like, some of my favorites ways that people have shared about it is, there's one, well, actually two people. One has a wall of pictures that they've printed out, and not just a wall, like it's now walls. It's like covered in the entire office. But basically it's all these like little testimonials that every client that
Mm.
they've served have given, and they've got it plastered. Like, they're not walls anymore. They're basically little pictures with
Yep.
testimonials under. So even when you're walking down the hallway, their main goal is to make that impact. And when you walk down and you read that, you're like, oh, I helped that. I like was part of making that person get that result. And that's inspiring. And so when people get that feedback, the employers are like, I want to add one to the wall. I want to add one
Mm,
to the wall.
mm,
And
mm.
then another one too that I really like is they take Polaroid pictures. So they have a Polaroid camera. And whenever someone demonstrates one of the core values, they take Polaroid pictures and then they slap it on their inspiration wall, right? And so now you have this wall that's covered in these cool Polaroids of the employees and how they engage and the fun ways that they do things together. It's very cool. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's almost like you can make work more fun. And
Hmm.
again, this isn't going to be for every business, by the way. Like some
Yeah.
people are listening and like, I don't want to do that. You don't have to
Yeah.
do whatever you want. Like,
Yeah.
I like
That's
doing this. This is my
That's so
thing.
ironic that you brought that story up because the roundtable that I was mentioning that I'm a part of, we met in Dallas 2 weeks ago, and part of the trip is we had to go. We did a corporate tour of this business that literally runs their business exactly what you're talking about. It's
That's
based
awesome.
on the core values and the mission statement that they derived in the beginning. All of their hires, all of their performance reviews, all center around their core values. And if the employee does not meet the core values, then they'll obviously they'll do a PIP, right? Performance improvement plan, or they let them go and they'll just say, hey, it's nothing against you. It's just you don't fit our culture, right? And
Yeah,
then they do the same thing. They take a Polaroid when you're hired in, and they have a wall, and the Polaroid is the year that they were hired in, and so the wall shows how as the company has grown like this, right? The Polaroids have gotten bigger, longer, and longer and longer, and they take a Polaroid every year that that employee has stayed. And so when they look at when their company was started in, I think it was 2013, like most of the staff is still there
that's
because
cool.
of their core values and their mission statement that they talk about. It was really, really cool. But they really, really, really drive culture, 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 culture. It's not about profit, it's about
Yeah.
culture.
Yeah, the funny thing is though, is when you get that culture component, like the profit can come.
Yeah, yeah,
Because yeah, that culture dynamic, I imagine like if I, walk in and talk to those individuals in the company, like they'll be excited to come to work. They're inspired by what they do. They feel a part of the vision, which means when challenges are happening, they're going to come up with innovative ideas. They want to be part of the bigger round
yep,
table. They're going to bring things to their superiors, right?
yep,
And they're going to actually get actively engaged and involved because it's so cool because it's like you're giving them permission to be like the best versions of themselves every
mm-hmm,
day at work. Like instead of
mm-hmm.
just sitting there and just feeling like a drone at the office, which I know we've all been in that state and we hate it. Like where it's
Yes,
like, I don't want to be here. I can't wait for the weekend. Like you actually give them permission to be so actively engaged that they're like, hey, I see this problem and like I was thinking about this as a solution, and it's like, hey, that's a great idea. Let me like mull that over. And it's like, okay, this part was a really great idea. This is why this part won't work, but I love what you're thinking. Like keep going with it. And sometimes
mm-hmm.
these solutions, the biggest solutions we get, come from like the lower end of the chain and the employees because they're the one on the ground floor. But when they feel comfortable, when they feel like they're part of that culture, when they're connected to the core
Yep,
values and the vision, they bring it to light for you. They want to bring it to light for you. And
yeah,
again, you get their executive center activated, which is so cool because human beings are capable of like more than I think any of us can ever even imagine.
yeah,
Everyone's afraid of AI, but I was like, I don't know, man. You can't, AI is non existent without human potential. So, like,
sure,
yeah, like it doesn't even like happen. You can't even program it accurately. First things first requires our human potential. And so
yep,
the more that we can tap into that human potential, the stronger the company becomes. And then on the back end, it's just about getting it all organized strategically
mm-hmm,
to make
mm-hmm.
sure that, things are moving forward effective and efficiently. So it's really cool. And you
It
care
is,
about people. I love
yeah.
people who care about people. Yeah.
Yeah, and the one big inspiration for me was when I first started in business. I read Ray Dalio's Principles book. I'm not sure if you're familiar with
Yeah,
that
that's
book.
a good one.
So yeah, I love that book. I became obsessed because I love how he operates his company, Bridgewater, where it's an idea meritocracy. The best idea wins. He empowers all of his employees to come forward with the best idea. And the only reason that he did that is because, like we talked about in the beginning of the podcast, he lost everything in the business. He had, I think at the time, he had something like 30 employees and he had to fire all of them
Yeah.
because he made a bad investment. He got cocky. He thought that he was right on a certain trade, ended up being completely wrong, lost all the company's money, had to start from scratch. And that's when he decided, I want the best idea to win. And so now when they hold their meetings, I'm sure you know this already from reading the book, but when they hold their meetings, like anyone who is running the meeting is graded on their performance of the meeting because they want the best idea to win. And it's a very, very open culture. Some people have written that it's almost like a cult, but he's the largest privately held hedge fund in the world. He must be doing something right. So like to your point, if the culture's right, then the profit usually follows.
For sure, for sure. And I'm sure there are dynamics of it that feel like a cult.
Yeah.
But again, if it's not aligned with your core values, you're going to label it a cult. If it's
Yeah.
aligned with your core values, you're going to be like, this is the best job that I've ever had. I just get to
Yeah.
show up and be me.
Yeah.
And so that makes me like understand and be certain that their core values are infused so distinctly in the company that if you're an
Mm-hmm.
outsider and you're not
Mm-hmm.
even interested in that, it will feel like you have to be involved in something that you don't want to be involved in, and you're a bad hire. You're genuinely a bad hire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many people do you think you've coached over the last 15 years or so?
Yeah, so it's funny because sometimes I forget to keep track of it. I try to keep track of it and I don't always keep track of it, but it's upwards a little bit over 1,000 probably at this
Wow,
point that
that's
I've had the
great.
opportunity. But it's not just one-on-one, but it's also with groups as
It's
well. So
groups
the
too.
groups dynamic. Yeah.
Okay. So
Mhm.
with the groups, is it kind of like a mastermind, like a round table, or how does that work?
The groups, I would say, I think it naturally turns into almost a mastermind dynamic in the sense that in groups, people genuinely want to connect with each other. They
Hmm.
genuinely do.
Hmm.
It's not something that I focus on. When I'm leading a group, I'm focused on the education transformation component. So we
Hmm.
do the education, we do the implementation, we get the transformation. And that's like my top priority.
Hmm.
And what I love about them too is it naturally encourages people who may have never met before that are very like minded to actually like connect. And it almost becomes like a dynamic where it does become a mastermind in a sense. So even though I get to focus on what I focus on, it naturally becomes a mastermind in the sense that people really resonate with each other and start to do other things together, which I
That's
love.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. What percentage do you think of the people that you've worked with have been entrepreneurs versus general public?
Yeah. So I would say if I think about that number, it's about 80% of like entrepreneurs,
Hmm.
founders, owners, and then
Okay.
I'll work a lot with their families. And so that's usually
Hmm.
when kind of the other individuals come in
Okay.
is yeah, they usually come to me that way and then I work with their families as well, which is fun. It's also a great honor when someone yeah,
Yeah.
like gives you permission to work with their family. Yeah.
Have you ever tracked like this success what's like the success ratio of the entrepreneurs that you worked with that come to you and say, here's my goal, here's what I want to achieve, what percentage after working with you actually achieve that goal or achieve that financial benchmark that they were trying to achieve?
Yeah, so this dynamic, it depends on what they're focused on. And so,
Hmm.
what I really like to do, this is why I focus on the vision component first. We don't work together and we don't fully move forward until we get that nailed. Because what I know is that if you come with a goal to me and I look at your life and I'm like, your life shows no evidence of you even touching that. Like you're spending no time, no energy, nothing. And you're telling me this is like your dream. And like I look at your history, nothing's there. Right. And I was like, so let's actually refocus and get very, very clear on what you actually want and see where
Mm,
this subordination is coming from because you're imitating someone out there that you've got on a pedestal. And once we clear that imitation and pull the
interesting.
true vision forward, we can no matter what have success. And so again, this is the thing where it's like I don't want to work with anyone who wants to build a fantasy and when I catch it on a sales call and I bring it up and I'm like, hey, like I understand this, but it's really important for you to know, like, we're not going to start working on this until I can ensure that this is the path to go. Sometimes people don't want to work with me. So
Mm,
technically my success rate is really high, but also because I do that legwork in the beginning.
right. You're
And a lot of
qualifying those leads out very hard.
Yeah, they won't.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't work with me if I won't give them what they think they want. And then ironically, sometimes I'll get
Mm.
them years later and be like, I still didn't get it. And I'm like, I know. Are you ready? Like, are you ready to work
Told
on
you,
the thing
bitch.
thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, like let's stop wasting time. I would love for you
Yeah.
to like wake up fulfilled today.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. That's funny.
It's so funny.
Yeah. People sometimes need to hit that desperation before they're finally like, okay.
Yeah, yeah, before they're finally like, okay, okay. And I check in because genuinely, if there's an authentic goal, it'll be realistic, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
sometimes I'll talk to people and it's like, okay, there's not much evidence of this coming true in your life, but there's a little bit. And
Yeah.
there's actually the goal is real, but there's parts of the goal that are just fantasy driven. And it's like, okay, that's what we're gonna work on. So again, it's really connecting like with that dynamic. And sometimes we'll be in the midst of working on it and I'm like, listen, like this is obviously not in alignment. Like the more work we do, the more we're seeing like you don't want this.
Mm.
Can we switch gears today? Can we switch gears today or the next time and actually start working on what you want? Which this is a crazy thing too. People have such a hard time giving themselves permission to do what they want. Like there is sometimes a significant quantity of coaching. It took me like a few hours of coaching to get someone to get off what they keep thinking they have to work on and just be like, can we just focus on the thing? Every
Oh,
time we even work on this, like this other thing comes up, and I was like, can we focus on the thing? And then as soon as we
yeah.
focused on the thing, like they took the steps forward, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
It's like it took me
Yeah.
hours to get them to give themselves permission to focus on the real thing. So us as humans, we are quite simple and also complex at the same time.
Yeah.
But a big component is like thinking in like day to day is like what do I love to do and like how can I give myself permission to do that and make that like a your personal motto.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I can totally relate to that. I have that exact symptom, if you will, because I think when you put those people on a pedestal that are like, the people that slept on the floor and blah, 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 you think you need to be doing the same exact thing. And if you're
No.
not, then you feel really, really guilty if you're not doing that?
Yeah, and people infatuated in a sense. I remember when I wasn't gonna be the person who was gonna sleep on the floor. Let's be real. Like I made it my own way.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I kind of lived in like this cool neighborhood in LA, and the house was like semi under construction, and she let me do whatever I wanted to it. So I had it like all decorated like really
Mm,
nice and perfectly. And I remember meeting someone who had that on a pedestal, and he was sleeping in his car, and he goes,
mm.
"You should sleep in your car because like I'm saving all this money and starting my business." And I looked at him and I was like, "Bro." I was like, I pay for utilities and I did a swap with her to basically like manage the property because I'm really good at accounting. And I was like, I'll do all your accounting. And so I did all of her accounting. I helped her bring in other tenants and vet them. And that was really helpful for her. It was things she wasn't good at. And I was
Hmm.
getting basically only paying utilities. And I was like, so
Wow.
you do what you need
That's
to do.
fantastic for LA because LA is
Yeah,
outrageous
I
to
know.
live.
I was like, I'm sleeping in a real bed every
Yeah.
night. I'm
Yeah.
warm. I love
Yeah.
it. I
Yeah.
wake up. I've got a
Yeah.
fridge, my little mini kitchen. I was like, you do what you need to do. I did what I needed to do. And so
Right.
that's the dynamic too is like, what are you good at? What is something someone needs? And I had the opportunity when I saw that this person was spending so much money and so much time with really crappy tenants because she just didn't know how to vet them. And it was something that I knew how to do. And then after that, funny enough, the tenants that like I helped her bring in, they've been there for over 15 years, and
Mm.
so it was just something that I was good at. And so if you think about it, the exchange for the money and the time that I
Hmm.
invested was actually long term better. And so people are like, you have to do this, you have to sleep on the floor, you have to struggle. And it's like, yeah, there's going to be a struggle no matter what, but like, how can you get creative and figure out a way to also take care of yourself?
Yeah.
Like that's also important. And then at
Yeah.
that time too, it was just when I was starting, I worked at a cafe because I realized that when you work at cafes, you get free meals. And so I worked at a cafe that I really loved because I was like, I'll work here a couple days a week. I'll support some of my income and then I'll also
Uh-huh.
get to like eat food. I get a meal and then I got to take one home. And I was like,
Oh,
this is great. So I'm saving money on groceries. Get creative is what I'm saying. Really, really, really get creative. And so this guy's sleeping in his car and eating fast food, and I'm having like organic, like farm to table, and I've got a roof over my head. Yet we're still like, you know, in the same spot of building a business. Pick your battles, like
Yeah,
pick your
for
battles
sure.
and make your choices and pick
Yeah.
how you want to struggle and
Yeah.
like see what you have to offer and what you're great at and where you could provide value and service because you don't have to do that if you don't want to. Like find a way. This is
Yeah.
what I'm saying. Like find a way. If it's important
Yeah.
to you, find a way.
I call that being resourceful, which I feel if you're an entrepreneur, a long-term
Yeah.
entrepreneur, you figure out how to become resourceful very fast.
Yeah, very, very fast. Very,
Yeah.
very fast. Yeah.
So when you're working with clients, what's the expectation that you set for? Like, how often are you meeting? You know, do you give them homework? What's it like working with Carly?
Yeah, so we usually meet about once a week to once every other week. So that'll depend on the course of time that we've already engaged, right? So new
Mhm.
engagements, it's usually once a week, and then we often taper down to once every other week. Some people still like to do once a week because they just really want to like go, go, go. And then what that looks like as well is, you know, we're making sure to stay engaged in the personal development dynamic, the business strategy dynamic. So the homework, usually we're getting on a call, we're clearing whatever misperceptions you have, and then we're making sure that the business strategy is focused and aligned. Because my top priority is to ensure also that your executive center is on board. So when you're having trouble making decisions, there's confusion, it's cloudy, you know, we have that brain fog. It's because
Mhm.
there's too many comparisons, too many judgments, all this crap. So I like to clear out the crap and then focus on the business strategy. And then the homework is often just whatever we're working on for the business strategy. Because when I'm working
Mm.
with businesses, we also get together for quarterly meetings. So we
Mm.
usually do like 2 day quarterly meetings and stuff, either on site or off site. And in those 2 days, we're getting a lot of work done. And then the in between is kind of following up on all those dynamics. Yeah. But it's
How long do you
really
normally
important.
how
Mhm.
long do you
Oh,
normally work with your students or whatever you want to call them, your
yeah,
clients?
a long time generally. So sometimes when people are just doing like personal development packages, they might just want to work on one thing. And so we
Mhm.
might just focus 3 to 6 months. But whenever I'm working with like businesses, actual businesses, it's
Mhm.
years. Like we're years and
Oh,
years because there's really like no reason to disconnect. As long as I'm doing my job and we're doing well and your business is growing, like they don't want to disconnect. And that's the thing, because it's really kind of like this never ending process that can carry on and continue. And as the business grows, like, you know, they're grateful for the growth and they want to keep doing more. It usually just takes, sometimes it takes a little bit less time, which is kind of fun. Like the more accustomed that you get to things, the more that we can work through all these variables at a quicker pace. And it's just a larger level of refinement and expansion on the vision as we
okay.
start to work together for a longer period of time. Yeah.
Very cool.
Hmm.
Carly, I really love this conversation. Where could everyone find you, learn more about you, or try to work with you?
Yes, so they can go to westcoastgrowthadvisors.com and you can connect with me directly there. I also have something on there which I think, you know, based on our conversation today would be really inspiring. It's a core values kind of determination.
Mhm.
And so you can get a really better understanding of who you are, what your values are, and kind of what that looks like uniquely for you because we did talk about that a lot today.
Very cool.
Mhm.
I'll be sure to put that all in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I had a lot of fun, and I'd love to have you on again, in the future.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Carly.